Our next speaker knows the Critical Raw Materials Act maybe better than anyone else in this room or in Brussels. According to leaked sources, he can ramble the articles if you wake him in the middle of the night. Okay. So welcome on stage, Director for Mobility and Energy Intensive Industries at the European Commission, Joaquim Nunes de Almeida.
So I had spoken during the breakfast to a gentleman. Yeah, exactly. This is possibly the key slide that maybe we can just keep with this one. So why do we need the Critical Raw Materials Act? If you see all that doses of red, it means situations which are very important for Europe, for the European economy, that are in the hands of China. So we're utterly dependent on external supply, concentrated external supplies of critical raw materials. We're hugely vulnerable, and all this is pretty essential for the industrial energy revolution that Europe is going through. And possibly this is one of the messages that has to be hammered constantly, is that we should tell everybody that we know that there will be no wind turbines, there will be no electric vehicle batteries, there will be no solar panels without plenty of raw materials that are not there yet. And this means a lot of extraction, which people don't, you can't imagine how, you are of the community, but you don't know how easily it is still to fall a bit into the trap. But, oh no, we don't want to think about mining because we're green. Because, we are green oriented. So we don't like mining because mining is dirty. This cognitive dissonance has to be constantly addressed. We had the example of the danger of the vulnerabilities we are when 1 or 2 years ago, China, as a result of some electricity shortages, stopped supplying us with magnesium, or there was a huge decrease of the supply of magnesium, which led the price of magnesium to increase 500%. And the conclusion we got to was that we were completely in their hands. There's also, I think, the danger of believing too much, at least for now, on the recycling illusion. People seem to think that we are not ambitious enough by having put forward a percentage of 15% recycling as not being ambitious enough. But the reality of things is that now you have a recycling rate of 1%. So if we would go for 15%, that would be already quite something. And also because in order to recycle products one day, you need to have rules in place now that make that the design of the product will allow its disassembling in 10, 15, 20 years' time that will allow recycling. So recycling might kick in hardly in 10, 15 years' time, but it's very difficult to address the situation now because basically all this stuff that we need the raw materials for is not yet there. I mean, the solar panels haven't reached the end of their life. The wind turbines haven't reached the end of their life. We're starting all this. So one day there's going to be a lot for recycle, but not now. Sometimes you also have people say, but why do we need a critical raw materials industry in Europe? There's plenty of stuff around the world. Yes, China might be a problem. Concentration might be a problem, but there's Australia, there's Canada, there's plenty of other places. First message is that, yes, it's true. I mean, we want to do much more here, but we will still be quite dependent on many other parts of the world, and we need to diversify our sources of supply, and we need to have intelligent strategic partnerships, and the EU and the member states should work together to get agreements with rich raw material origin countries to get us a good supply of raw materials. But the demand is so high. The increase of the need of raw materials is so high that who tells us that even the Canadians and the Australians are not going to put their interests before ours? I mean, the or that there will be others that will have more capacity of pressing Australia and Canada to give them things than we do. So it looks like prudent and intelligent to at least exploit much more of the potential of critical raw materials that we have in Europe. Possibly this will make it that our inputs could be slightly more expensive. More Europe will probably mean slightly more expensive raw materials. But on the longer run, it might be less expensive because it will be safer and a more secure, continuous source of supply. I don't want to make the Russian gas analogy here, but it's a bit what we're talking about. Let's not go for, yes, it's great. Russian gas is so cheap and so plentiful, but then look at the situation we got in. We don't want to see ourselves in the same situation on critical raw materials. So we've got targets, a target of 10% of extraction, 40% of processing, and 15% of recycling. The Critical Raw Materials Act turns a lot around the concept of strategic projects. So people would put up a project, they would go to a board where the Commission and the member states are represented. And with the support of our services, we would curate the strategic project in order to find the appropriate financial cocktail it needs. At the same time, then, if the Commission would consider a project to be strategic, again, with the involvement of the member states, that would mean far reduced deadlines than we have now. So, for instance, for mining, which is the one that we have the highest deadline, would be 24 months. 24 months might look like a lot, but if you see the 10, 12, 15 years that it takes to get a mining project through right now, 2 years maximum would look quite a revolution. Now, I know that some in this room are probably not happy enough that we didn't touch the substance of environmental law that affects. So basically, we are just saying that the process has to be faster, but we didn't say that the rules that process has to apply, they will be the same. It's just that the administrations will have to apply it faster. I think it's also important to underline one of the things that we have put forward, and the Secretary of State also mentioned that, is that often we like to hide behind the fact of saying, "Oh no, Europe is not very rich on raw materials. We don't want to see it. We probably have much more than we like to think we have." And so one of the things that we're asking in the proposal of the member states is to assess their territories. Things have to be put in the open. Each member state should tell the community of member states, look, this is what we have. And then people should see together. There should be adequate peer pressure we're not going to oblige a member, we're not going to oblige anybody. We're not obliging anybody. We will oblige member states if the member states wants to. What our proposal says is that you are asked to assess your territory. But even if you have, the highest deposit of something very important in the world, the proposal doesn't say you have to exploit it. You just have to put it on the table and say, yes, I have this. Public acceptability is an issue. There's not much that you can do by way of hard law, in the sense that what can you put in a law to convince public opinion that a mining project is a great thing for them. But we ask the promoters of projects to include a plan on how to facilitate public acceptance. I think also the social dimension has to be highlighted here, in the sense that mining jobs are often stable, relatively well-paid jobs, and this issue also should be highlighted. I think we have to do more also to promote mining within the financial community. The EBRD seems to be quite open to it, but I think that there needs to be work with the EIB to get the EIB more geared up to support mining projects. We also ask companies above a certain size, large companies, there's a legal definition of what a large company is, and it's quite large, to do audits stress tests when they are dependent on a single source of supply for 65% of their needs. On stockpiling, which was also a big issue, we basically just asked the member states to tell us what they stockpile. Again, transparency, and we would issue recommendations to the member states about what to do about the stockpiling. But we didn't force anybody, no member states, no companies, to do stockpiling. During the short consultation period that we had, it was clear that there wasn't much appetite for that. Strategic projects can also be outside of Europe. We are engaged in a strong critical raw materials diplomacy. At this stage, I'm negotiating an MOU with Argentina, with Chile, and with the Democratic Republic of Congo in order to improve our access to critical raw materials in their territories. How are we going to assess the ESG, the environmental, social, and government standards on third countries? Here we were a bit in a conundrum in the sense that if you put the bar too high, you run the risk of not getting any raw material, because if you would try and get Congo and Chile to have the same standards as Sweden and Finland, forget it, you won't get there anyway, anytime soon. On the other hand, we have to put an encouragement to, wrap it up. Okay, fine. No, I could go on forever. But I think the main things I was getting there. Okay, look, I'll probably just follow mathematical the 10 minutes. I think I said basically the gist of what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for Svemin and the Swedish government for the support to us on all this. Sweden is a great example of showing how a country with high social labor standards can do profitable mining. You're a great example. You and Finland are a great example for us in pedagogizing with other member states about, come on, guys, do a bit more on critical raw materials, because, again, you show that you can do this with the highest labor and environmental standards. So, again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.